You're working just the way you always have, maybe even better. You're more experienced, handling tasks with ease. Then it starts. Your opinion's no longer relevant. You're always overqualified. Suddenly, you're unemployable. This isn't part of aging, it's ageism. Everyone deserves to age without limits. Let's make it a reality. Ageism. Notice it, challenge it, change it. Search Age Without Limits.
I had the great pleasure this week of chatting with Alex Rotas. We talked about how she's used her photography to challenge stereotypes surrounding ageing and how she travels the world promoting active ageing. She goes to the World Games to photograph men and women in their 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond who are taking part in competitive sporting events. And she talks about her film project Older and the documentary Younger, which features older individuals who are participating in the World Championships. And I've seen it and I can tell you it's very moving. But before we get started, can I ask that you subscribe, follow and rate us on your podcast app? Let's get on with the podcast. Welcome to Retirement Rebel Life After 60. I'm your host, Siobhan Daniels. Join me on a journey to meet inspiring rebels who've redefined retirement. Together, we'll explore new passions, triumphs over challenges, and discover the vibrant possibilities of life after 60. This is about living boldly, not just aging. So, are you ready to rebel? Last week on the podcast, I spoke to Skye Bergman about her award-winning film Lives Well Lived and her book Lives Well Lived Generations, both of which celebrate ageing and show how we can get the most out of life and reignite passions in later life. We discussed how it's vital that there's more intergenerational connections, younger people chatting with older people, to fully understand how we can help each other in the ageing process and to live our best lives. If you haven't already, please give it a listen. It's available on all podcast platforms. One guest that I've been wanting to get on here for a long time is Alex Rotas. She's been challenging stereotypes, basically, of what it is to age through her photography. I've been watching her progress and watching what she does. First of all, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast, Alex.
You're kidding, Siobhan. Thank you for asking me.
I am thrilled that you champion positive aging so much through your photography. Why are you doing that?
Because when I hit 60, that magic age, I was so depressed. No, well, that's 15 years ago. But I was so depressed by the kind of images that you saw out there that were circulating, that dominated the narrative, the visual narrative about aging. I mean, who would want to get old if that was what it was all about?
What kind of images were there?
They seemed to, once you put the word old in a search bar, what you got were images of people looking half dead, basically, slumped in chairs, the life force just drained out of them, expressionless, dependent on others, no agency, just utterly, utterly depressing. And I was looking at them and thinking, well, okay, I mean, that might be part of the story of getting into maybe deep old age or getting old, but it's not the whole story. But I could not find positive imagery other than those really sort of smiley images that are sort of fake or patronizing of old people. I just wanted to show people doing their thing. And
that is so important, people doing their thing, because they are out there doing their thing, aren't they? In their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and well beyond in some cases. That's why I absolutely love the fact that you've championed this.
Absolutely. And I remember reading a question somewhere that somebody said, what do people over the age of 60 want? And I thought, well, what do people in general want? It doesn't suddenly change. We all want the same thing, something to look forward to, something to do, someone to love, as the saying goes. So whatever is your thing. I mean, I'm very sporty, so sport really attracted me. And I thought taking pictures of people doing sport, if sport was their thing, would be the polar opposite of these half-dead-looking individuals slumped in care homes, chairs.
Were you a photographer at the time?
No, I didn't even have a camera. No, I was a very junior academic. I've done everything late in life, and I came to academia in my 50s. So I was a junior academic in the field of visual culture. So I was looking at images, but I didn't make them. And I just thought it'd be fun to critique images, maybe write a paper about the kind of images that were out there of sporty older people. So that's why I did the search. And I didn't find any. Once I put older sportsmen and women in the search bar, that word older overrode everything else.
That's outrageous.
I don't think it would happen now, even in those 15 years. I think there's been a shift. But yeah, it was outrageous. And I thought, God, well, nobody's doing this. So, that might be fun. And then I remembered I hadn't a clue about photography, didn't have a camera.
That's a bit of a stumbling block.
Well, a small one.
So what did you do?
Once I decided I was going to do it, I spoke to one or two friends and somebody said, oh, there's something called the Masters Games happening next year in Italy. And I didn't know what this was, but they told me it was a sporting event for people over a certain age. And I thought, oh, that'd be fun. I'll go to that. The optimism of youth, I want to say. So then I Googled photography tutor in Bristol. I found myself this wonderful young woman who took me on. She said, I'll meet you in the city centre, bring your camera. And I said, well, the only problem is I don't have a camera. So
you really were a rookie then?
Yeah, I love being a rookie.
That's brilliant.
I love it. I love the sense that, you're going to learn new skills. I guess it's like a learning curve stretching ahead of you into the future. And you think, I'm going to know how to do that in a while.
I love the fact that you saw there was something that you didn't like, you were angry about, and you wanted to change it. And the fact that you didn't know how to use a camera was not going to be a stumbling block. It was just going to be a challenge that you could overcome.
Yeah, that can be something to love or something to say it's pretty foolish, actually. But I mean, I'm glad you love it. It fired me up. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about being older, being 60 or whatever. You can do stuff like that. If I'd been 30 and said I was going to do that, it would have been a different ball game. I had responsibilities, everything's kind of different. But when you get older, if you're lucky, the responsibilities kind of ease off, then, you can do your thing, do what you want. There's a wonderful freedom to it.
Now, you said you were going to go to the Masters. I didn't know anything about the Masters till you came on my radar. And I'm sure there's an awful lot of people out there. Did you know anything about them before you were told about it?
No. They were completely under my radar too.
So what exactly are they?
Okay, you become a master sports person over the age of 35. That's considered to be old, which is also insane. And they're competitions, either in individual sports or if you go to the games, they're like the Olympics. They're for lots and lots of different sports. And you compete in your chosen sport in your age bracket. So they go up. These age brackets go up in 5-year bands. So 35 to 39, 40 to 44, 45 to 49, and so on, right up to 85, 89, 90 to 94, 95 to 99.
Incredible.
There's a new category now, 105 plus. It used to be 100 plus, but now there's 105 because there's a runner. I think there are 2 runners actually in the States who are over 105. Amazing.
That is incredible.
I thought I'd go and I was so ignorant. So I thought, well, I'll go and photograph these games that my friends had said to me are taking place in Italy. And somebody said, well, you have to get permission. You can't just turn up with your camera. And I was like, oh, do you? Yes, they said, there's you have to get a press pass. And I was like, oh, a press pass? Well, what's that? I contacted them and I said, I want to come and photograph your games. And they said, well, what are your credentials? And I was like, well, I don't really have any. But I don't know, I have the gift of the gab, maybe. And they didn't have any photographers. Nobody was showing any interest. And I said, oh, well, I'm a member of the international, I can't even remember what it was. It was some academic organization, International Visual something or other. I said, oh, I'm a member of this. And they went, oh, okay. And it had no relevance whatsoever. And so I kind of took the leap and I bought my tickets, I booked a hotel, and I turned up. I didn't know that you had to go and register and you have to get a pass, you wear it around your neck. And when I turned up, they haven't got my name anywhere. But I'm here, They were kind of nice. They took pity on me and they said, okay. I started. But it was a massive learning curve.
When you actually started photographing the athletes themselves, what kind of emotions went through your mind and what did you think about these people who were competing?
Well, the first thing was that I was thinking about myself, I'm afraid, not the people. I was terrified. I was lost trying to find where to register. I mean, I was such a rookie. I had no idea about registering. And these two Irish track and field athletes, they were twins, turned up at the bus stop where I was panicking and took me under their wing. And they took me and showed me how to register. So then I had my pass. And then they just took me to the track and field stadium, because I could have gone anywhere. I could have gone to swimming. I could have gone to basketball. I knew nothing about track and field. So they took me to track and field and pushed me into the stadium where I was allowed to go because I had this pass. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know any of the rules. That you have to walk across the track and there are people running around it. And then there are people throwing things and jumping. I don't know the rules. I don't know what's going on. I don't know any of these sports. So once I'd got over my terror and started to take some deep breaths, they were laughing at me from the stands and saying, don't worry, you'll be grand. And then I just started to take it all in and I was blown away, absolutely blown away. I'd never seen anything like it. And I can tell you why. So I'm a tennis player. So I was used to playing tennis with older people. And tennis players can hide their fitness behind good racket skills. So if you're 60, 70 or 80, you get a killer drop shot. You don't have to be particularly fit. The other person just says, oh, well, great shot, and that's it. End of the rally. But what struck me in track and field was that there was no hiding. These athletes were sort of naked. You just take your body to the start line, a gun goes off and you run or jump or throw something. So the fitness level was something I'd never seen before. That just blew me away. And the other thing that I was so impressed with, and I felt it was a massive gift to my project, was the kit that they were wearing. It's very skimpy. Athletics kit is tiny, little singlet top and tiny shorts. I wasn't used to seeing women in particular in their 70s and 80s in such tiny kit. As a photographer, you get this wonderful opportunity to photograph the older body showing the strength and the frailties. So you see the wrinkles, you see the lines, the crinkly skin like I've got, and then you see the muscles. And I just thought this is such a gift because the stereotypes around aging were all so boringly polarized. It was like, oh, if you're old, you're frail, you're decrepit, you're whatever. The reality is far, far more interesting. It's nuanced. And I was seeing that. These bodies were obviously older bodies with the lines, the wrinkles, the skin type, but they were also strong. And I thought this is the kind of nuance that really feels to me is lacking in this whole conversation about aging.
We don't show active aging enough, do we?
No, we absolutely don't. And what it means to be active. And also, what it means to be older, which is the same as to be younger. I mean, being younger is not all great. And not every young person is strong and wrinkle-free. And being older is not all dreadful. It's a wonderful mixture.
Do you think this lack of representation of active aging encourages a lot of people, particularly women when they get older, to self-limit and to think, I can't do that because I'm getting old now? And that we should be able to see more images of people competing in games like this. It should be on television even, to encourage. So we've got people to be our inspiration.
Yes, if you can't see it, you can't be it. I mean, and I think we internalize what we see. So we internalize this notion that as we get older, we need to limit ourselves and be careful and not fall and all of that. And suddenly seeing people who are incredibly free with their bodies and throwing them around and pushing them to their limits, I think is incredibly, well, for me, it was unbelievably liberating. I'm going to use that word. It was incredibly freeing. I mean, I'd been brought up in an era when girls and young ladies had to sit with their knees together, very Princess Catherine,
Prim and proper.
Prim and proper. And suddenly you're seeing these women in their 70s and their 80s throwing themselves over high jumps, legs akimbo, not caring how they land, wearing tiny shorts. Wow, it was so freeing for me personally.
What did you do with the images that you took then? Did you go out? Were you wanting to use them to promote positive aging? I mean, what were you wanting to do with those images?
I hadn't thought anything through. So I got these images and I came back to Bristol where I live and I put them on my computer and I was like, yes, result. And then it occurred to me, who's going to look at them? How am I going to get anybody to see them?
Which is sad in itself, isn't it? That there wouldn't be that interest.
Well, there wouldn't be that interest coming from someone like me who hadn't got a name. I mean, I couldn't phone up the BBC and say, oh, you know what? I've got these wonderful images and my name's Alex. They're like, well, who are you? I haven't thought that through. I hadn't thought anything through, to be frank. So that was a bit frustrating. And I thought, should I try and have exhibitions? So I did a little exhibition in Bristol, which I had to sort of pay for myself. But, nobody's going to go because it's a vicious circle if nobody's heard about you. And this is not a topic that that's blipped anyone's radar. Who's going to go? Nobody. So that first period, and also, so we're talking, this is 2010, let's say, round about then. I didn't have a social media presence. I think I didn't even know what social media was. I think it was I don't know if social media was in its infancy, but it was for me. Somebody said to me, you need to have a Facebook page. And I said, oh God, what's that? And slowly I started to learn that there are some tools that can help you promote what you're doing, but it's very, very, very hard.
When did it seem to get traction for you? When was your sort of breakthrough using the photographs to champion how active a lot of people are when they're aging?
It's been an incredibly slow process. If I tell you that pretty much now, 15 years on, I think I've got traction and people are coming to me, like you've invited me to be on your wonderful podcast. That's happening.
But I love what you're doing, and I think we do need to see more positive images of older people being active. We need to have the discussion. We need to get it out there. It should be on television. It should be more in papers. And you've actually been involved in a film, haven't you? I've spoken to Danielle Selwood.
Yeah.
She's on one of the episodes of this series of a podcast for me. And I know you've worked together with her to create a film. Just tell me a little bit about that. What's it called?
It's called Younger. And the reason it's called Younger is she made a little 6-minute film of me called Older, which was just talking about my work. And
when did you make that?
We made it, I shouldn't say during lockdown, but in that sort of period.
And how was that film received?
Well, minimally, because, it also had very little traction. But it was part of a conversation that Danielle and I were having. And she had set up, as you know, a film company in her 50s. Her thing is women in sport. It's always been women in sport. So when she saw my photos and we got chatting, we met at some event and we got talking and I told her about the stories behind one or two of the women, which are incredible.
But your images are very powerful as well.
She was drawn to the images and I think my images, thank you, maybe they are powerful and the visual image can do one thing, but it can't tell the story. So what Danielle said was we need to make a film and then we can tell the story of these people. And, my images are in the film, Younger, but we follow 4 female British athletes aged 69 to 84 and tell something of their stories. The still image can't tell that story.
No.
You need words.
And it's the emotion behind it. It's what is motivating these people to keep pushing themselves when a lot of people feel that we should be slowing down when we age.
It's that, but it's almost more than that. I mean, the thing that I've taken from getting to know these amazing people, and I hope it comes across in the film, is how the community that they are part of whatever sport it is, so track and field older athletes or hockey older athletes, whatever, how it supports them and encourages them and motivates them to keep going through the stuff that life throws at us as we get older. So we all suffer losses. We can suffer bereavements, we can suffer loss of injuries, illnesses. Stuff happens. But what I've learned from these athletes is that they don't look at the injuries or the illnesses as an end. They look to the other side and they want to get back to their community. And that's a lesson that I think we wanted to get across. You couldn't not get it across because it shines through in the women's lives in the film, because they've all been through stuff. And it's certainly something on a personal level that I've tried to learn from, because my default is to catastrophize. And these athletes do anything but.
Which is all more reason why we should be able to sort of witness this kind of lifestyle. And it does frustrate me. I mean, it must frustrate you that it's taken 15 years of you banging on about this and going and giving talks and showing your incredibly, incredibly powerful images. I'm just going to interrupt for a moment to shamelessly plug my book, Retirement Rebel. It's published by Vertebrate Publishers, and it's my honest account of feeling broken in my 50s and finding my happy place in my mid-60s. I got rid of my home and possessions and hit the road in my motorhome for a roller coaster ride along life's adventures. I want it to help younger women not to fear aging and older women to grab life and run with it. You can purchase a copy in most bookstores and on Amazon. Right, now back to the conversation. I know you did an exhibition, didn't you, called No Limits Exhibition?
Yeah, that's right.
Was that right? When did you do that, and how was that received?
Well, I've done No Limits 1, No Limits 2. It was in Bristol in the city centre. That was fantastic. What I learned there, I did it in association with an organisation called Active Ageing Bristol, which is kind of a subset of Age UK Bristol. And so I took photos of various grassroots sports projects that are part of Active Ageing Bristol. And we made an exhibition in the city centre that mixed up the grassroots pictures with some of my elite athletes' pictures. And it was in the city centre, and it was so different from those early exhibitions when I tried to show my pictures in a little gallery, because this was in a very busy central Bristol square. So people just were walking on their way to get a bus. And, they didn't choose to go to see an exhibition, and they didn't choose to see an exhibition of old people, which could have been a turn-off. I mean, who would have chosen to go? You could see, because I enjoyed being down there and just watching what was happening. People would walk by and they'd look and they'd think, oh, it's an image of somebody doing sport. And then they'd look again and they think, but that person's got white hair. It's not just an Olympic image.
So it was having an impact.
Yeah. And you could see kids, little kids pointing at them, saying, calling their parents. I overheard my favourite comment was a little 8-year-old who said to her granny, Granny, these people show me that I don't have to get old like an old person.
Oh my goodness, That is so powerful.
Yeah, I loved it. And I knew just what she meant. I give talks to primary schools wherever I can, because by the age of 5 or 6, kids have already internalized this notion of how an old person gets old. So, I always start off by saying, well, let's pretend I've come to audition you for a film. Show me how an old person walks. And they put their hands up and they say, oh, me, me, me. And then they hunch their shoulders and they kind of walk forward very, very gingerly.
How interesting.
Yeah, it's fabulous. And I say, you're absolutely right. That's what everybody thinks. And now I'm going to show you some photos. And then we look at the photos and you can see they change their attitudes so quickly. They're so receptive. So I really love doing that. I'd do more of that if I could.
I think it is vital that we do get into schools and we get into schools earlier. This is one of the things that I've been talking about, so that we can actually have a positive change and sort of shift how society views and treats older people. And I think seeing the athletes, seeing the athletic side of aging is a very, very powerful way to get that message across.
It really is. And it's kind of fun because I explain to them how athletes wear a bib, which shows their age group and, the 5-year age band. So if it says 80, it means they're in 80 to 84. And I say they wear their national kit, so to find out what country they're from. So when I show them a picture, I say, so who knows how old this person is? Who can tell me what country this person comes from? It's a lot of fun. I love doing it.
That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, is because I want us to have that platform to share the information that we are all out there. We are doing these kind of things. Your images are highlighting the sort of the vibrancy of some aspects of aging. And like you say, we do age differently, but when there's something that we can show, we should be able to show it. When there's something we can hear, we should be able to hear it. And on this podcast, it's a platform to inspire others to say, come on, let's get out there and be healthy and age as positively as we can.
I think it's wonderful you're doing this podcast. I think that no one single person can make a change in society. You're not going to do it. But together, we're an army and we can make change. And I think, we all need to hold hands and as we're doing and link up. And, we chip away. You're chipping away from your perspective and with your podcast and your wonderful social media posts about your own life. And, I do my little thing. And there are lots of people doing different things. And together, I think we can make a difference.
But you are having an impact, because if I had a penny for every person that said to me, you need to get Alex Rotas on your podcast, I'd be a very rich woman. So you're obviously on the radars of an awful lot of people. But I love that we're gaining our community and we're getting our tribe, and we are pro-age campaigners in all our little things that we do. I mean, I know I'm just like a little pebble in the water rippling out.
Yeah.
But I'm just doing what I can to try and help other people not feel as bad as I felt, and to feel positive about aging.
Exactly. And I think we're all little pebbles, but we're coming together, chipping away. And I mean, I don't know if you've discovered this, but people said to me, oh, social media, it's so evil, it's so negative. And the Facebook community that I share my posts with is the most benign, supportive, lovely, life-affirming community you could wish for. And people take the trouble to write comments. I'll make a post about something and then I'll write a few words about it and who that person is and what they're doing and some thoughts. And people will comment and they'll share their own stories. And you can just feel like we're this kind of tribe, and they'll write from New Zealand. You found that. People write from all over the world. And I don't know, it's the first thing I do when I have my early morning cup of tea in bed. I take a look at Facebook and it's so heartwarming. And I'm on Facebook. I know it's not TikTok and whatever, but my community, which I guess is maybe an older community, is largely on Facebook. People say nice things about each other, and we're not, we're all trying to big each other up.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, I use Instagram an awful lot more than Facebook, and I've found my community there. And I think there are an awful lot of people who are using Facebook and Instagram across the board now. I think you can post on both together. I'm not very good with the technical side of it, but I get my message out there and I get my communication from different people. But I agree with you. We're finding the tribe, we're finding the community, and I only have positive things to say, and people are so supportive.
Exactly. And I'm finding exactly the same. And I'm trying to use Insta more. I just get so exhausted when I make a post. I always write and it always takes me time. And afterwards, I think now I should post on Insta and I should post, I used to post on Twitter, but now it's become X. I find it so dark. I don't like even going on it.
But then you just need one positive comment, and then that sort of refires you again, doesn't it? I get women who will say to me, you've just made me look at my 60s completely differently. Yeah. You've inspired me. I'm actually going to get a van and get out there. And I just love that. I'm hoping one day to sort of get my retirement rebel tribe together in our vans and have a good chinwag around the fire about what it is to get old.
Oh, how wonderful to get old in a van. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that.
What have you got planned ahead? What are you going to be doing to keep promoting these strong, vibrant, aging women?
Here's the thing. I used to be a great controller. I always used to try and control my life and have goals and so on. I've stopped. And since I've stopped, I can't really answer that question and say, well, my 6-month plan is this and my 1-year plan and my fact that. I can't. But I'm kind of going with the flow, and the flow is flowing. So the film is having repercussions that I hadn't expected.
Was it difficult to get the film in the cinemas?
Very.
Why is that?
Well, because we haven't got a budget for PR. So we actually have got it in the cinemas. We had a wonderful distribution guy who helped us do that. But getting word out so that people go to the film is very hard because, we don't have a budget. It's all being done by word of mouth.
You'll have to let all your tribe know on Facebook, and we can all post all at the same time and be your little publicity team for you.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, people have. They've been amazing. And there is a kind of groundswell, so we're not quite sure where that's going. And I'm kind of just I'm running with it.
I feel it. I'm not even involved in the film, but I feel it with people's comments, and I'm seeing people who were saying that they couldn't get to the showings. They saw the list and they couldn't get to showings. So they're all eagerly awaiting to see where we can see it again.
Oh, thank you.
I've actually been on Vimto. There's a link there, and I've been able to pay to pre-order to see the film, and I can't wait to be able to see it.
Oh, thank you so much, Siobhan. That's really good to hear. I hope so. You know, you have to manage your expectations and not kind of, let's see. Other avenues open up because of publicity through the film. I mean, because people are hearing about the film. And I had somebody write to me today to say, would I photograph? Now, what was she doing? A master's water skiing. I'm getting asked to go and photograph new to me sports or to go and talk on different panels and stuff. And that's lovely. And I'm realizing basically the world is full of very nice people. And so by saying yes to these things, I don't get overwhelmed, because when I go there, they're so life-affirming. I'm meeting amazing people. Talking to you today, I just feel so lucky, because another stereotype of getting older is that your life narrows down and you get lonely and,
Yes.
But actually, maybe it's through my project or whatever, I just feel the opposite. I just feel I keep meeting most amazing, wonderful people, and people I want to stay connected to. And the people I photograph are becoming friends, have become friends. I've been photographing the track and field athletes for 15 years now. So, they're my tribe, and they've adopted me. And, how lucky am I? I go to these events and, I get lots of hugs. It's wonderful.
I know exactly what you mean. I go and talk at a lot of festivals about my book, Retirement Rebel, and about the podcast and my motorhome adventures. And I just feel like I'm going into a group of friends, even if I don't know them. And I actually sort of say to them, can I give you a hug? Because I just feel we're connecting. We're all wanting the same thing out of life. And that's so, we're being told, bombarded with images and narratives saying it's not this way. But actually, as we're meeting up, we're all realizing that aging can be such fun, and it's great. And there's people in their 60s, 70s, 80s dancing to the live bands at these festivals. And I absolutely love that.
It's so life-affirming. I don't know. I kind of pinch myself when I just think, how lucky am I to be part of this?
And it is a movement. It's part of a movement.
Definitely.
I think the momentum is building, in that people want to hear more people like us talking about just our experiences and what we're witnessing of the way that we are aging. What's the next event that you're going to then?
Next Monday, I'm off to Sweden to photograph the World Masters Athletics Championships, which is a massive event. There'll be thousands of athletes, older athletes from all over the world. So I'm going there for 12 days. That's a huge thing for me. I have to pace myself, because it's very tempting to stay in the stadium and take, hundreds of photos. And then when do I edit them? When do I process them? And when do I post them? So I have to be kind of strict with myself. But that'll be hard work, but wonderful, wonderful fun and exhilarating.
You see, that's not even on my radar that's taking place. And I'm really intrigued. I really want to see the events. Is there anywhere that you can see it? Is it put on YouTube or?
Do you know, increasingly they are putting, I think, bits on YouTube, but basically no. I mean, when these events happen, they're open. I mean, anybody can go there. So last weekend, there was the British National Athletics Championships was in Derby. So anyone could have just gone to the stadium and watched. But because people don't know, they don't go.
I'm going to check it out and try and go to some of the events, because I really do want to go. I want to talk to these people. I want to see them in action. I want to really just envelop myself in it. And you never know, I might see a category that I think, hey, 65 to 70, I can walk fast.
One of our athletes in our film is a race walker. Yeah. I can let you know and introduce you to some of these wonderful people.
That would be incredible. Now, because I call myself a retirement rebel, one of the things that I ask all my guests is, when was the last time that you were a rebel or that you felt rebellious?
Wow. I think my whole later life has been an act of rebellion. I think since I turned 50 and my children left home, I tried to be a little bit more conventional when I was raising my children. I don't know. I tried to
be grown up, I say to people. I tried to be grown up.
Yeah, it didn't work terribly well. And once I hit 50, I just feel it's happening all the time. I'm endlessly rebelling and endlessly becoming more authentic. And who knew? I wish I'd had the guts to be authentic in younger life. I think my kids would have enjoyed me more if I had been pretending less and just being more real. So yeah, a constant act of rebellion. Yeah, and it's ongoing, I would say.
I love that. That's why you belong in my retirement rebel tribe, in my community. I absolutely love that.
Thank
but
you.
I know what you mean about pretending when you were younger. When I felt at broken point, when I was in my mid-50s to late 50s, one of the things that I said to my daughter was, I want to stop pretending. I want to find out really who I am and speak my truth and really feel when I'm happy, I'm happy, when I'm sad, and not pretend. And I genuinely now at 65 have found my voice and I feel truthful, I feel strong, I feel empowered. And I just love connecting with women like you because it makes me feel even more empowered. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've absolutely loved chatting with you.
Oh, bless you, Siobhan. It's been such a joy, such a pleasure. Thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with Alex Rotas as much as I've enjoyed chatting with her. She's such an advocate of showing how there are so many extraordinary people aging in a very vibrant and positive way. I took away from talking with her that there are no limits for many active people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s and beyond. The way we look at aging is changing with an older demographic. There's an increasing active, healthy population that's not being seen or heard. So Alex is on a mission to address that. I'd urge you to check out her 2 film projects, Older and Younger. There really are food for thought. Next week, I'll be talking to the adventurer Sian Davis. She's hoping to become the oldest woman in her mid-60s to row anti-clockwise around the coastline of mainland UK, with a crew of women in their mid-50s and one woman in her mid-30s. She also talks about her love of motorbiking and caving. She's such an inspiration for anyone who's looking to get the most out of life in their 60s. It's available on all podcast platforms, so subscribe, follow, rate and share. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on today's Retirement Rebel Life After 60. I'm truly grateful for your time and your willingness to embark on this journey with me. If today's conversation sparks something within you, or if you've your own rebel story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out through our social media channels or email, and let's keep the conversation going. Email us on podcast@retirementrebel.co.uk. And remember, if you found value in our time together today, consider sharing this episode with a friend who might also enjoy and benefit from our Retirement Rebel community. Spreading the word helps us grow and continue to challenge the narrative around life after 60. All of our details can be found on retirementrebel.co.uk. Retirement Rebel Life After 60 is written and hosted by me, Siobhan Daniels, and produced by the incredibly talented Matt Cheney. Join me again next week for another episode. Until then, keep embracing your inner rebel and living life to the fullest. Bye for now.